In case you've been living in a cave and just crawled your way out right now in time for this program and you are unaware, the skies seem to be alive over the states of New Jersey, Oregon, and even Minnesota. Strange craft are being witnessed nightly, and not just by one or two people, by thousands reporting in. The Pentagon, our government, seem to be waffling on what this type of phenomena is. Tonight, we'll explore those discussions. See, words is hard even on a Friday night, maybe even a little harder than normal. We'll explore all of that when we return right here to the very best in paranormal talk radio and the best in words is hard programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
He won't float. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Good evening, my darklings. Thank you so much for joining me here. It is a Friday night. We are live. Hopefully my guest will be able to connect with us very soon, and we will include him in on this conversation. But as many of you have alerted me, there are reports of strange craft flying in the skies over parts of New York, New Jersey, Oregon, now even Minnesota is beginning to witness these things. And we're not sure what's going on. They're calling them drones, which would make you think that they are some type of piloted craft by some government, maybe by some group of people that are trying to gain and grab attention. We're not sure yet, but is it extraterrestrial? There is a lot on the line right now because it is showing the vulnerability of the skies over our country. I spoke today with Scotty the medium, Scotty Davis, and from his home in New Jersey, he can see a military installation, and that has not kept these craft from flying overhead. I asked him, well, why aren't they scrambling jets? He said, that's the question, Dave. This is very strange. And I said, well, you're a cop. As a police officer, if you feel that this thing is infringing on public safety, can you shoot it? He said, no, it's a federal offense to shoot one. I said, well, that's strange. If we have something in the skies that nobody knows about or where they're coming from, especially in the wake of what just happened with the shooting in New York, shouldn't we be doing something to try to understand this? And he agreed with me wholeheartedly, but said that at this point, they're not allowed to do anything. Their hands are tied. Law enforcement, I guess, unless one attacks somebody. Now, I've seen a report of a possible or potential crashed unit. I have not been able to follow up on that to see if there was any legitimacy to it, or was it a clickbait story that would take you through 100 fiery hoops to find out that it's from The Onion or some other spoof website. But it is very strange. Now, reading over many of the different articles and stories that are out there, I was kind of blown away by the fact that they seem to be reporting that there's interference in and around areas where these craft are being seen. People are talking about the fact that the clocks within their cars are changing times, that their GPS in their cars are not working properly, which then would lead you to believe that these have some kind of jamming capability, which is very unnerving. And if they are jamming the signal that your car would normally be getting, and it changes the time on your clock, changes your GPS coordinates, could that be that now your car is picking up whatever GPS signal is coming from those drones? Might that be a clue as to where these are originating from, where they're coming from, how they're being sighted, how they're being viewed? It's very interesting. And then I thought, well, if they are truly jamming those things, maybe the reason that we haven't sent jets or planes or helicopters anywhere near them is because they may actually have some kind of capability of affecting and impacting the navigational instruments of these planes and helicopters. And if that's the case, the last thing we want is for a jet or a helicopter to be over the heads of some of these very populated areas and suddenly stall out and crash to the ground. Now, why would I believe that that might be a possibility? Well, there are many people that have launched their own drones up into the sky to see if they could, in fact, get better footage of the drones that are being sighted over these many states. And it should be also noted that the drones are only being witnessed at night. They are not being seen during the day, at least for the most part. So if it's affecting and impacting drones and causing drones to drop out of the sky that people are sending up to try to get information, that certainly would let you believe, boy, this is something we have to take a lot more seriously. This is something that we shouldn't just summarily dismiss, right? As people maybe playing a prank, joking around until we have more details and information, it is certainly something to keep an eye on. And I'll be watching in the chat room here as well. I'm just curious, what do you guys think? Is this something that is governmental? Is this something that maybe with what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia and China and Korea, are we running up our own drones, checking them out in our own areas safely before launching them in the event that that might happen? I'm not sure what to make of all of this quite yet, but it is unnerving to the many that are watching and witnessing these things flying in the sky. Now, do you believe if it is our own government and they are testing craft, should they be admitting to it? Or I think if that is the case, I understand the secrecy and wanting to keep things to themselves, because if they sense that there is a preeminent attack or something dictating our need to know how quickly we can execute these drones into the sky to get information or take down opposing issues, I think it's certainly worth the government secrecy. I don't know that we're going to find out anything. It seems every time I see an article at the Pentagon's having their hand forced to finally talk about this, every article I read that starts off with some similar rhetoric all appears to peter out. Let's see what we've got. Right. And people are bringing up good points that the reason it's a federal offense to shoot these drones down is because if they are our craft and we're shooting them down, that would make sense. I know there are people that have those high powered lasers. And in a few instances, I've asked some people I know that have them, have you tried to paint the sky with them to see how these would respond to the high point lasers? And his fear was, well, if we do that, am I about to start a world war? Will the drone take that as some form of attack? So it's really interesting. Let me see what I've got going here. Yeah, a lot of the people are telling me this is still relatively new to them. Music says, high EMF 2. I knew it was outside. I felt it and told my friends, and we went out there. There it was. It hovered very high, orange for 5 minutes, then flew off very slow. Music has video of that as well. Let's see. Billy Christie says, I think it's our own government that may be testing new equipment. That's a definite possibility. Let's see what else we've got. Jeanette Hafke joins up and says, honestly, I'm now having flashbacks of the Russian subs off the East Coast and Chinese spy balloon vibes. Right. I think that's what a lot of us are starting to think about and show concern. I'm seeing a lot more concern over that than I am that these are extraterrestrial. Obviously, there's a faction of people that are putting their foot down and stating this is indeed, without a doubt, extraterrestrial. And, you know, they're testing our capabilities. They're checking our areas to see what kind of control over our equipment, GPS, mapping satellites and such they have, which, you know, if we look into the many cases and stories that have been reported over the years, that in the event that we do engage in a world ender war, a World War III, where nuclear weapons will be employed, then, or deployed, I should say, are they going to step in? Are they going to do their best to stop so that this resource is not destroyed? And that may be what they're doing. But I'm not seeing reports, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm not seeing any reports of these craft being sighted over any other country. So I would guess that if it was aliens trying to, vibe out everything, they would be seen, especially over the superpowers, and there would be a lot more detailed uh, talk about that. So I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure. I know that's an easy statement because none of us are really sure. Let's see here. Steve says, all love, Dave. Not trying to be mean. Twilight Zone episode when people were seeing things and blaming each other while the pumps laughed. I don't know what that means. Um, and it very well could be that. Is it like, the monsters on Maple Street? Are we just testing the waters to see how the people of America are going to respond to certain things that are taking place? Maybe extraterrestrial, maybe terrestrial threats. It could be very well that there's a lot of that going on. Scout says, I think it's to do with the military, but not sure. I do believe there's something out there in space, but it's a strange one that has been happening with no communication. And that is what I found so bizarre, right? Again, not seeing jets or things scramble after these lights um, would lead one to believe we know what they are, or they're our craft, therefore we don't need to engage, or we understand what their capabilities are, and that could cause even more problems. I don't, and having watched the news after those Chinese spy balloons, I still don't know where we stand with that. I mean, the fact that there were so many of those being sighted and seen and over Canada and the United States and hovering over our military installations, I don't know why there's not more about that in the news. I feel like that really is something that we should be made more aware of as well. Um, when I say that, I waffle. I stand on two sides of the same fence because my fear in these situations is there are a lot of overreactive people. And if we tell them that we think we're being encroached upon, there are many of you that have weapons who may just take it upon yourself to start launching attacks at these craft. Well, remember, when you shoot up, what goes up does come down. And I am a eyewitness to murder, for lack of a better term, of someone when we were at a fireworks display back when I was a teenager. Somebody was shooting their gun off in their backyard. One of the bullets came down and hit somebody that was sitting relatively close to us and dropped him. Just so happened that an ex-soldier was sitting next to him and recognized the sound, knew what happened. They called in, but it killed the man. And they tracked it, figured out what had happened. And yeah, some guy had been shooting in a barrel full of water and then fired off a couple shots in the sky during the fireworks display. And the fallout from that can be disastrous. So we have to be extremely cautious with the way this is handled. And unfortunately, because there are a lot of henny pennies out there that overreact to these kind of situations, we need to be aware of that. We need to be cautious. And before we start telling people that the enemy's knocking on our door and hovering over our skies, we damn well better be positive, and then also tell people you can't be shooting because it may be our craft up there trying to engage them. So there's going to be a lot that needs to go into these decisions that are being made. And I know that that's going to be an unpopular point, and I can already sense emails heading into my email box right now saying, hey, Dave, we deserve to know. And to a degree, yes, many of the adults in the room do deserve to know. However, there are many adults that are very childish and make very poor decisions when it comes to protecting themselves. And we need to be cautious, man. We just have to be cautious, whether it's aliens or a terrestrial threat. We have to be cautious with the way that we proceed with this. I'm keeping an eye. Let's see here on the chat as well. Mark Lanou says we have technology to track these. Our government is up to something, or they don't know what they're doing. Right, Mark? I mean, that's part of the problem, right? I mean, if we do have the capability. However, I've heard that some of these will come in and they'll hover for a while and then take off at breakneck speeds again. So do we have the technology to track something that's smaller, flying lower, and can move at incredible speeds? I don't know. I know that you've actually worked with NASA. I am not as familiar with what kind of capabilities. I know we always hear how advanced our military is and our tracking systems are. Yeah, our buddy Ray out in the UK is saying he hasn't heard anything about it yet there in the UK. Let's see. Scott says there have been some people using spotlights on them and nothing happens. The only difference, Scott, is spotlights are one thing. Laser pointed guidance systems and things like that may be different. If we're out using those high powered laser pointers, why do I keep saying it like Dr. Evil? Lasers. If we're using that, will they think that's a threat that they're being targeted? I think that's what my point on that was. Mark also weighs in and says our radar systems can track these. Jamming technologies are constantly evolving. Nick says, I've got a feeling that if this is happening with the drones, both in the United States and Ukraine, it won't be long before other countries follow. Yeah, I'm afraid of that as well. We'll have to see what's going on. Some more of you weighing in. Randy Childress says, if it's secret, why have the flight lights? Why not just go dark? That's another interesting point. They may have to have the flight lights because if they're keeping it secret and they're flying these craft, they do have to still alert other aircraft in the vicinity what's going on, so that the lights at least will keep themselves visual for major commercial flights and things along those lines. And again, I'm going off of just trying to use common sense and critical thinking here. Let's go. Let's see what else we've got coming in from the crew. Yvonne King says martial law being announced would be terrifying. I agree, Yvonne. And I think maybe that's why the government is stepping back from talking about this, is they want to be cautious with the way we release this and get it out there. Randy Childers says ET definitely would have no lights. That's not necessarily true, Randy. There have been people, including government officials, that have witnessed what they believe to be extraterrestrial craft that do have lights. But they don't seem to be running lights like the red, blues, and greens that you would see on normal aircraft. Many of them are seeing bright white or orange lights when it comes to that. PJ Thompson says, if these things can jam signals, could the government block all devices to get a message out to everyone at the same time? Fahrenheit 451. It is strange, right? That may be another element of this that we have to be cautious of. We believe we've got this global network that will alert us if there's an incoming attack. If they are finding ways to jam those frequencies, it makes us a very clear target, and this becomes a very clear and present danger. Again, I don't want to jump into the headspace of gloom and doom and that this is something nefarious. I jokingly said, well, of course there's a bunch of craft flying over New Jersey filming because they're filming the Bruce Springsteen biopic there. And Bruce is out and about. So they're probably just trying to get footage of that. But then realizing that, I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but there's also all of these other eyewitness accounts that are taking place in different states around the United States. And I might have missed other reports, but I've just seen Oregon, Minnesota, and New York, part of New York and New Jersey is the ones mainly affected by this at this point. Craig Campobasso, our guest, I'm waiting for him to check in. Hopefully everything's all right. We were supposed to talk about aliens and the different species and races this evening, and I'm hoping there's no issue with him connecting with us tonight. Let's see. Gene Bird says, I feel these are Chinese or Russian. Oof, yeah, that's scary. What is scarier, I wonder? And let me see it in the chat room. We'll start it right now. Just kind of what is scarier to you? That it's a foreign power or alien influence that both seem to be checking their capabilities of what they're able to do and disrupt. Which one to you is more frightening? Let's see what you guys have to say about that. Yeah, it is Friday the 13th, as Joseph Trio just pointed out. Q2 Paranormal says, I think the government wants to shove a narrative on us, sort of like 911. PJ Thompson says, government mind control. Christina Jessup says, foreign power for sure. Melinda Freeman weighs in with foreign power. Yvonne King, foreign power is scarier. Angela, she pops up and says, scary. I'd rather have aliens. Nikki says, definitely foreign. Loving the government scares me, or loving the new facial step up, Dave. Oh, thank you. I'm trying to read as these are scrolling by, so some of them are jumbling into one. Let's see. Foreign government scares me more, according to Eileen Flynn. Ray Lancashire wants to know, why are there drones over the U.S. air bases but not the UK ones? I don't know. Again, that's the question. Maybe because the UK is not nearly the threat that Russia, China, or Korea would think. The UK is not where their first fears lie. It's going to be the United States, because honestly, if there is an attack here that takes us down quickly and efficiently, that will leave the rest of the world scrambling, because they're going to fear that, Jesus, if they could take down America, and that may be the boot that they're holding over the throats of many of these different countries, is look how swiftly we took care of America. Yield to us now. We have the air superiority. And again, this is big brain thinking of the possibilities of foreign alliances and issues that are going on out there. Let's see. Eileen says foreign government scares me more. Dennis Koch says foreign power or outside group. Warner says no one knows. Yvonne King, I'd rather be aliens. Catherine Cat Bringle said my hubby and I say foreign powers are more frightening. Nick agrees, foreign powers. Foreign government scares me more. Music says hello to people in the chat room. Laura Carroll, foreign power, definitely. Steve goes, damn it, fine. Let's just give each other heart attacks. It's Mothra and her man babies. Yeah, Steve, listen, I'm not trying to instigate fear. But how do you not have this conversation as adults and it not lean into the fear concept? But I can't just come out throwing light saying, oh, well, this is obviously nothing for us to worry about, because there is something going on that we are not being told about, which automatically breeds some fear and contempt towards our government, foreign governments. It'll be interesting to see if President-elect Trump has something to say about this in the next few days, or what goes on with our current president, Biden. Does he step forward and acknowledge what's happening? I'm not sure. And I'm not saying that to open up political diatribes about how much you hate the other team. That's not what this is about. This is about, what do you think is the next step, and who in the military or in the government is going to be the first to reveal the hand, who's going to be the first to step up and say, this needs to be spoken about. Scouse says, why would a nation risk it? They'll get dealt with. Scouse, again, I think it just depends on how quickly and efficiently their initial strike is. If they're able to jam us in and above our military installations, and we don't see the actual attack coming, that would render us helpless quickly. And if they take down America quickly, you think everybody else would step up and go after them. I think a lot of people will bow. I think a lot of people will kneel to Zod in that case, because if you take us down, there will be rebel countries that are going to want to step up and fight. But I think that they're going to try to be in the preservation market as well, that they don't, if our government could be taken out that swiftly and quickly, our military, they want to be careful there as well. Let's see. I've got a couple more in here. Yeah. Tammy Lynn says, it's just Domino's testing drone delivery pizza. Old school pizzas. There's no way this is a foreign power. Alonzo says ET and Force, and he's worried. Mark weighs in again. If they are Chinese or Russian, they are entering U.S. airspace. If our government is allowing that, then we do have a problem. Again, Mark, if they're entering our airspace and we know that they can interrupt our flight patterns and our instrumentation, that could be extremely terrifying. Do they interrupt it and end up dropping these craft out of the sky? Right. I think aliens would be the best outcome. That's according to PJ. Let's see what else we got. Yeah. When we end up in a world where there are so many people that are power hungry, stepping forward and wanting to make an impact in the world, it's scary. You have to think these things through. DARPA, Department of Defense, with hologram capabilities. Listen, Giannis, I don't think that it's just holograms. I think they're three-dimensional craft that are doing it. If they were holograms, I'm sure they could do it from or if they had that kind of technology to scan on us, which they probably already do. Why aren't they doing it from their satellites? This, I think, is because they want to come in low where they can hit the jamming frequencies. I'm hoping, let's hope that it is alien in nature, that it's coming in to figure out what its capabilities are so that it can reduce any kind of real footprint that any of us can do to one another. It doesn't mean that there won't be an initial launch, but what are they going to be able to do to shut everything else down? But again, I'm sure we're keeping an eye over Russia, and we're keeping an eye over China. And if there are drones flying over them as well, I would feel better that it is extraterrestrial. I don't know. Yeah, another strong point from Mark. A strong pulse toward a power grid is troublesome enough. And if they are creating some kind of net way and they're creating an EMP pulse, it could knock out the satellites above and knock out what's below, again, rendering a lot of our military installations and bases basically helpless. Let's do this. I'm going to just take a quick break. During the break, I'll try to reach out to our guest, Craig, and see where we're at, if he's able to connect with us this evening. Until then, we'll just take a quick break. We'll come back with more discussion, and I'll keep reading your statements, and we'll have more ideas that we can share between each other. We'll do that next right here on the Paranormal 60. You know, the holidays aren't all joy and jingles. Behind the festive lights lies a shadowy history. In Jeff Belanger's Surviving Krampus and Other Yuletide Monsters, The Fright Before Christmas is here to unwrap the history for you. This isn't your typical Christmas story. It's a fun, fascinating, and sometimes frightening deep dive into the forgotten folklore of the season. A world where Krampus isn't just a pop culture icon, but a devilish enforcer, ready to snatch naughty children. Where trolls, witches, and the Yule Cat stalk the snowy landscapes, and St. Nicholas's heavy-handed helpers bring more punishment than presents. Explore folklore from across the globe, from the elf-like Tomten to the terrifying Grilla, who drags the misbehaved to her mountain lair. Discover why the winter solstice, the darkest time of year, has always been a season to fear. Whether you're curling up by the fire or walking alone on a cold winter's night, The Fright Before Christmas will have you questioning every shadow. It's available in hardcover, audiobook, and CD, perfect for gifting to your favorite spooky season lover. So this holiday season, add a little more fright to your festive nights. Grab your copy of The Fright Before Christmas, available wherever you buy your favorite books, because nothing says Merry Christmas like a Yule Cat ready to pounce. It's the holiday season, a time of giving, receiving, and maybe even answering life's most mysterious questions. What better way to bring joy and clarity to yourself or a loved one than with Love and Lotus Tarot readings by Winnie Schrader? This December, give the gift of insight, empowerment, and a little holiday magic. Because when you buy one tarot reading, you get one free. That's right, buy one, get one free all month long. Whether you're curious about the past, seeking answers in the present, or wondering what's in store for the future, Winnie's loving, empathetic, and accurate tarot readings are the perfect way to connect with what matters most. Choose a cozy phone reading or a face-to-face video session. Perfect for this festive time of year. Visit www.paranormal60.com and click the Love and Lotus tab to learn more and book your readings. Again, that's www.paranormal60.com. Click the Love and Lotus tab. This December, the best gift is to give and receive with Love and Lotus Tarot readings by Winnie Schrader. Don't wait. Book your readings today and make this season truly magical. Welcome back to the program. This is the Paranormal 60 Live Special Edition Friday program. Thank you for tuning in and spending a little time with us here. We are discussing currently the strange phenomena that's taking place in the skies over New York, parts of New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Minnesota now, and whatever other states are starting to witness these drone-like craft. Has anybody, I'm checking the chat here. Is there anyone that has seen any more detailed information regarding the drone that did go down and crashed? Is that a real story? Is that a clickbait story? Has anybody found anything on that? Like I said, the one I saw earlier seemed like I couldn't define it specifically if it was a legitimate story or somebody just trying to draw you in. Let's see. We've got Laura jumping up. She says, if we start seeing the earth change like our land have burn spots or like crop circles, something like that, we can maybe guess it's aliens, like in the film Signs. I don't know that they would give us that clear a sign. I think they've been giving us a sign for quite a while, and it's I think they've been giving us those messages for a while, trying to get our attention, trying to let us know what's happening. If you believe all the many people, including current and former government officials and employees that have claimed to have come into contact with these beings. So I don't know that they're necessarily going to just leave innocuous signs around the planet. It's an interesting Hollywood trope, but I'm not sure. Okay, Q2 Paranormal says Trump did say something about it already. Q2, if you know what was said, please let me know. I would like to mention that. Dennis Koch says President-elect Trump just came out and said, shoot them down. Yeah. Let me see. I'm continuing to scroll down looking for information here. If the government says anything, we won't have any real information. That very well could be. Steve keeps going, I don't want to freak out. I don't want to. I understand that, Steve, but we also still need to have the conversation. Why? Because they're not having this conversation on local news in any kind of real way. We are people that take things into consideration, look things over, and maybe see things outside of the box that most people would. Now, that can also make us sound crazy, and I completely, wholeheartedly understand that. But it is what it is, right? It's a very tenuous time, but these type of things need discussion. And I know that from time to time, we've had these kind of exercises take place over our nuclear facilities, and they have chatted about the fact that they've turned down entire missile silos. I would have guessed that if that was government, foreign governments that had that capability, there would have been some more about this in a bigger way. And I don't know what that would look like, right? We keep talking about this disclosure, and it is interesting that there's been so much focus on disclosure, and it does seem that we're ramping up to talk about something big coming our way. I just don't know what that something big is. And, I'm going to have to move all the way down. I'm trying to keep up with the current conversation if I can. Let's see what we've got here. Terry Mosby says, there is something crazy going on. There are just too many out there. Beware of false flags. I don't think it's outside our government. Billy says, honestly, they probably won't say anything because it might cause worldwide chaos. That's what I've been throwing out there. Eileen says, what if we shoot them down and there's a dirty bomb on board or anthrax? That's another interesting point to bring up, Eileen. Maybe they're goading us, wanting us to take a shot. And maybe that's why the government isn't as well, is they're unsure of what the payload is on these craft. And that, for a guy who's saying, I don't want to scare people, this is giving you maybe some more insight into why we're not just attacking. Let's see. Well, I don't believe anyone, including aliens, can fold space, Ankh says. Okay, that's fair enough. And maybe it's interdimensional beings, or maybe they're the beings that are here all the time. Jeanette says, yeah, CBS New York reporting it as a plane crash. So that one drone that's been downed, they're reporting as a plane crash. Let me see here. Heather says, I can literally see the Limerick nuclear power plant from my window. So I'll give you the scoop if I see anything. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, let us know. Here we go. Deborah Holman says, I'm in New Jersey, just saw that it's still under investigation. Yeah, very weird. I'm glad they're continuing to investigate, right? It'd be worse if they were being dismissive and saying that there's nothing to think about. What if they are protecting us? Biden authorized the missiles into Russia on November 17th. This is coming from Fun Breaking News. And these in New Jersey showed up on November 18th. I assume we moved or readied a nuclear weapon in New Jersey about when they showed up, and they're protecting it from Russia or bad aliens. Well, it's that's something to consider. Maybe they are watching out for us, making sure that we're going to be protected. War of the Worlds ended because the aliens caught a cold. Nobody ever thought about us catching space germs. Yeah, that's true too, James. There's a lot of things you have to take into consideration, like Mary Hirsch says, weather balloons. Right, we know those blasted weather balloons. They love to just hang out and hover and cause chaos. Um, Laura brings up too. It is interesting that they are only at night. Well, I think during the day, so many more of us would be able to see it and maybe be able to see identifying markers. And that's why they're keeping it under the cloak of night. They may also be thinking, well, if we do it at night, more people are going to report them as UFO or UAP activity. Therefore, it's going to be easily dismissed because loons, right? Looney Tunes. Let's see. Trying to find any other quick messages popping up. Ball lightning music said, yeah, but unfortunately they've got pictures of these look like craft and there are lights on them. In the Hegelon dialect, they control both sides of the equation to get the outcome they want. Let's see. I came across a close-up pic on the side of one of the drones, and it said they were trying to contact us regarding our car warranties. Yeah, I saw that meme today too as well. So I do love that some people are still taking this. See, Steve, some people are still taking this a little tongue-in-cheek, trying to stamp down the fear. Steve brings up, we do have a capable military. How would this mothership be on our East Coast? Kind of disrespectful to our military. Sue Smith says, my daughter saw a UFO and she didn't believe in them. It totally freaked her out. Right. Once you get the chance to see something that defies conventional understanding and wisdom, it is very paradigm shifting. That happened to me when I went to Trout Lake, Washington back in, I think it was 2006, 2007. And I saw the UFOs in the sky there and the one giant flying craft or creature, however you want to look at it. I think the drones in New Jersey are looking for what's left of Aaron Rodgers' career. Yeah, there's a good chance. Let's see. Q2 says, Dave, Trump said the government knows what they are to tell the truth about them or shoot them down. Everything. The bio whale. Yeah, all right. So we've talked about this. We've discussed it. Obviously, we're not going to get any defining answers in this open dialogue, but it does show you that there are a lot of things to take into consideration and why we're not just shooting them down. Whether it is possibility of being dirty bombs or being something that might end up working like an EM pulse and knocking out our infrastructure. I think we have to be very careful in how we proceed with these things. I would like to think as well that as we progress as a country and we progress in this world, that we are starting to see that things are much bigger than the small narrative that we've always walked in. And many of you, people like you that come to the show and watch the show every week, you're on that path, right? That let's explore things. And even those of you that are skeptical and just tune into the show for what you call the comic value of us weirdos and whack jobs, which I totally get as well. That can be entertaining. But it does open up interesting concepts as to many different things and the way that they're handled. We just had that conversation with Les Stroud recently about Bigfoot and what would be the point of hiding Bigfoot from us. And, it would definitely affect and impact the logging industry, mining industry, and many different things, because we would have to start making allowances for these creatures to live a healthy, happy, safe life where they are. And that's something that we can't just dismiss either. We have to, take that into consideration. The fact that they're hiding it from us to protect us, I don't get it. I think it would definitely be more along the financial element of not wanting to stop certain industries. The giants kind of fit into that same paradigm for me. For a long time, there have been claims of these giants that have been dug up, and not just one or two off cases, because we do know, listen, I think one of the tallest people out there is almost 10 feet tall. So that fits right into some of the tallest sightings of Bigfoot. And there are genetic abnormalities that take place all the time. So there might be one off, but we're finding entire villages of these hobbit-like figures. There are claims that there are these giant figures that are found, and many are now hidden within the internal workings of the Vatican and the Smithsonian Institute. to me, I think, why? Why would we hide that? It makes no sense. And especially when you think about the time era that those things would have been found and uncovered, most of our country was still a country that did prayer in schools, swore on the Bible, allowed the 10 Commandments up in our court. So we were still a God fearing nation, right? And I would think that any time that you could prove that the claims of the Bible were true, i.e., giants, you would want that information out there. So I don't understand, to what end would why cover, we can believe that giant lizards once walked the earth, but we're not allowed to believe that humans may have been as well, right? Just something to consider. And I can't remember the terminology for it, the proper terminology, and I apologize. I'm not being able to pay it as quick attention to the chat as we're discussing this. But there is a phenomena of, with fish. If you take a small fish and put it in a large tank by itself, it will grow exponentially. It'll grow much larger than it would on its own. And it seems the bigger the habitat, the bigger the thing will grow. Well, if you think about the planet before all the overpopulation, we may have grown bigger. We may have been bigger and smaller, and there may have been more variations. But what happens is natural selection, right? And maybe in the taller, bigger creatures, it's more of a stress and hardship on the body and on the heart and on the joints, and they might break down much quicker. The smaller, their hearts may race quicker, like smaller dogs and cats, and they may be then prone for heart attack, stroke, and death early. And maybe it's us that are just kind of in that mid range of, 4'9" to 6'1", 6'2", that, this is kind of the perfect size and build for us to be compatible with our current environment. I don't understand why we hide so much of this. I think a lot of it just comes down to mommy and daddy don't know the right answer. They don't know how to explain these things. So it's better to sweep them under the carpet and keep them from the larger conversation, because then that means we have to open up more dialogues. We have to talk about this. We now have to allocate money that could have gone to our military into explaining giants and where they fit in our cosmic scheme. And I'm not saying that's my thoughts. I'm just saying that might be the bigger thoughts of the people in charge. Let's see. We've got another person, James Weston, saying, I just don't understand why hide all these things like giants from the public. What hides in the dark always eventually comes into the light. So we would think, James, except for the fact that if those races are now extinct and we are doing our best to keep them from being found or spoken about, people are very, if I don't see it, I don't believe it. And if I can't see it, sniff it, taste it, touch it, it doesn't matter to me, and we just move on. I think there's a lot of really fascinating elements to our past that are slowly coming to light. And if we keep encroaching on areas and digging areas up, I think more of those secrets are going to be revealed, like you said. But look, we're how far into humanity, and we're just now still finding complete civilizations that are just covered under a blanket of leaves and flora and fauna. But thanks to LIDAR, we're locating these temples, these kingdoms that were once lost that are now being found. Allison, let's see what she said. Maybe this is the aliens' way of showing themselves to us finally. The government can't deny it anymore. I hope so. But then why not just land and be cool, right? Why not just land and be like, yo, people of Earth, we are here to live among you, bros, right? You guys got to chill out. Maybe there's also an element to this conversation that we should consider. When Reagan was in office and Gorbachev, was it Gorbachev? My brain is hiccuping right now. I believe it was. When they sat down, they said, what if aliens came down? The enemy of our enemy is our friend. That then means we might see a bigger global threat. What if these things are coming out appearing to be a threat, so that instead of us focusing our weaponry at each other, we start talking and opening a dialogue again to other countries? Because now our governments have to start to work together, saying, okay, hey guys, we can't dismiss this anymore. They're making themselves known and we don't seem to have a way to control them. Maybe it's a way to bring us together without a shot ever being fired, by creating a common threat so that we no longer see each other as Russians or Chinese or Japanese or Lebanese. We see each other as, humanity of the world, and we need to figure something out. So that is a great point and a fascinating element to this discussion that I think is something worth examining and talking about. Craig is having trouble. He is unable to access our backstage and join me. I will reschedule and have Craig on because he does have an interesting topic. He has a new documentary out about aliens, and there's over 82 different species. His documentary will cover that. I do have a link for him, for his book, and for his documentary on today's program guide, so you can go purchase the documentary and watch it, purchase his book, read it, and get more information about Craig. But we'll have him on for a more detailed conversation in an upcoming program. Okay. Speaking of upcoming programs, this weekend, let me pull this up so I make sure I've got the correct information on the Paranormal 360. If you're not familiar with that yet, it is my terrestrial radio show here on WCCO Radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. This Sunday, I'm going to be joined by Rebecca Pittman at 7 to 9 p.m. Central. So again, that's 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, 6 to 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 to 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking about the history and haunting of the 1771 Enfield Demon House. And she will be my guest for the full 2 hours. We'll discuss that case. Chilling case. And if you are still having trouble finding the Paranormal 360 podcast version, email me, dave@paranormal60.com, and tell me you'd like a link, and I will send you a list of links that you can try for many of the different podcast formats I know that the show exists on, and then you'll be able to go listen to the show that way. And I hope you'll check it out, and please do, because it would really help us get more of this talk on terrestrial radio. It's been kind of a growing pains going back into terrestrial radio, but WCCO, which is one of the most prestigious radio stations in the state of Minnesota with over 100-year history, was willing to open their doors to allow me to come in and talk about the paranormal again. So let's drive those numbers up on the podcasts. Let's let people tune in live on Sundays, and we do open up. So if you have questions, you can text or call in your questions and be a part of that program. But again, if you'd like more information and how you can listen to the podcast after it airs, email me, dave@paranormal60.com. All right, let me go back and see. Crystal says, it's interesting that some people don't believe in dinosaurs, but there's plenty of evidence they existed. Right. Well, some people believe that that is the trick the devil has played on us, to make us question our faith and belief in humanity. However, I guess this is interesting. And again, I'm just quoting a scholar I heard talk about this about 20 years ago. He said that, again, it's because of the breakdown of the way the original Bible translations came through. And the term that they use for like birds of the air actually are referring to lizards. The original, was it Aramaic or whatever language they were using at that time? The original deal was lizards. And they might have been referring to the dinosaurs. So it's fascinating. But look, here we are in 2024, about to break into 2025. And what we thought we knew as the oldest stages of humanity, we're now finding footprints that are predating those dates by 10 to 12,000 years. So we're still in our infancy of understanding. And if global warming continues and ice caps keep melting, I think more things are going to be revealed to us very soon, and we'll be able to find information. Let's see here. I'm looking for some of the other people who haven't had a chance to pop in. Bunny says, we had a weird sighting in our town recently. I think it made national news. It was a jellyfish-looking thing floating in the sky. Very bizarre. And there's that footage that the Pentagon has released of that jellyfish-looking craft that they tracked along the property line of one of the military installations. So, yeah, the jellyfish are another. Is that actually an alien, or is it a craft? Let's see where else we've got some other information. Here's Brian Russell says, don't worry, y'all. If they're a threat and fly over here in Florida, we got y'all. Yeah, I believe that's one thing. That's why they're not flying over Florida. The aliens or the Russians are afraid of Florida. Everybody's afraid of Florida. We don't know what kind of shenanigans are going to take place there. Heather says, I'm scared of aliens, but my gut tells me they love and care about us. I hope you're right, Heather. I hope that's the case. And Yeah, flat earthers. What do you guys think of flat earth? The flat earth theory. I love the fact that there are some people that are just, I mean, they're lockstep in. You cannot budge them, no matter what kind of science you show. I love that one meme that shows all of the planets in our universe as round and ours is flat, and it just says, "Ooh, embarrassing." Uh, we're the only planet that couldn't manage being round. Um, let me see here. Let's go with Tammy Lynn. Dave, if you sculpt a mountain from mashed potatoes, I'll start worrying. Do not ever question the artistry that is Richard Dreyfuss and Steven Spielberg. And I have crafted many, many mashed potato volcanoes on Thanksgiving. But this is the way I eat my food. It'll freak all of you out. I'll probably lose many of you as followers and friends, but I mound it up in the middle. And then I kind of core out a little bit of the middle and I put my turkey inside. I put my stuffing on top of that. And then I put gravy, hot gravy over the top of it. So it looks like lava seeping out. And then to give it that real lava, I put a couple of slices of cranberry jelly on top. And I just dig in and I eat it that way. I love the flavors. And before you scoff at me and oh my God, you're horrible, Dave. I love the different flavors and textures all at once. It's cold, it's warm, it's salty, it's sweet. It's just beautiful. Try it before you mock me. How do I know that it tastes good that way? Whatever convinced me to try that? Well, I grew up in the era of Swanson Hungry Man dinners, when you were lucky that they didn't all just slop together anyway when you got them back home from the store. So that's how I learned to start mixing my foods. But that's a story for another day. Let's see. Let me go. I'm going to rush to the end of this conversation here again to see where we're at. What are my thoughts on the hollow earth theory? I tend to think it's a reality. And that's a good question coming from Elena Crane. That one is fascinating to me. It's weird that all the governments of the world have agreed nobody can be in charge of Antarctica. That's really kind of interesting, isn't it? Why? And that, there's reportedly diary entries from Admiral Byrd that found an entrance. I've also heard that those are not real diary entries. And I've had scholars on both sides tell me the different side of the story. So again, it's one of those, I just don't know what's real and what's not. That's why these stories are so fascinating to me, because there's just enough holy shit in it to make you interested, but also make you question everything. Right. And if you were an alien race, a foreign government, and you were planting these seeds, that's exactly what you want. You want to sow those seeds of confusion, so that what you're telling may be real, but it sounds so obscure and absurd. Who's ever going to believe it? Let's see here. The Wild Side of Midnight said, I had a conversation years ago with someone who was former Air Force. I was told aliens exist and they do monitor this world, among many other things. I was also told they wouldn't allow us to, oh no, the other side, destroy ourselves, and they would intervene. Knock on wood. Hopefully that is what's going to take place. That's what I'd like to see. Get the aliens in here intervening. But I would much rather see that we all come together right now. All over me. And no, I'd love that we'd all come together and have a conversation. How do we put together a global network to protect ourselves and take the stress and pressure off of the hot points on our planet right now, and start paying attention to things like humanity and resolve those issues? Because I think once we do get people to the table with a joint concern and problem, and everybody has a concern for it, I think that will open dialogues that will be world changing. Now, for many of you global conspiracy theorists, you're going to say that'll never happen because, Dave, they like us to fight. There is money in war. And you're right, there is. That is a very sad but true fact of our history and the way that our world is run. It's a real shame. Let's see. I love the story of Captain Bay and the Nazi ice aliens. That comes from Old School Pete. The lizard. Listen, do I believe that Bigfoot exists? Sure. Do I believe that there are lizard creatures or beings that may still inhabit our planet under the earth? Why not? There are many things that we're still finding in our oceans that we thought were not possible and at depths that should not be able to happen. We don't know nothing. We are still in our infancy. We are still learning about the reality of our world. And we may have been much closer to understanding that reality in the past when we just accepted it as such. Let's see. Civilizations fell because the common folk rebelled against the elite. Right, Dennis. There is that element too. However, if we are to believe there is some global cabal that is running our entire world and keeping us under their heel, there are a lot of fright words that are put out there and keep people in check, the majority of the people. And I don't know that there's enough people that are willing to step forward yet to reclaim. And I think that's part of the reason the governments are fearful of their own people, is because they do need to be cautious so that there is not an outbreak and panic of pandemonium regarding the wrong thing, if that makes sense. James Weston says, I would not be shocked if the US government has been infiltrated by lizard people. Too many things would make sense if that were true. Yeah, it does make sense that maybe we have been influenced for a very long time, and that these species have somehow impacted and affected all of us. But, that's the beauty of what we talk about on the show every week, in some of it in tongue in cheek, but just the fact that there is still so much miraculous and magical things that take place. So many questions that are yet to be discovered, because, right, sometimes we hate our job because of the complacency of it, because we're so used to it. There's nothing new challenging us. Scientists push past the bounds of reality at points, hoping that grabbing onto a thread, as loose as it may seem, may unravel a mystery for them. And I think that's what keeps science driving forward, is that exploration. That's why we want to continue to check the stars in our oceans, is because we want to find something else. We want to explore. We want to discover. We want to, sadly, conquer in some ways. So I think that we're just going to have to keep the magic alive within ourselves. Stop allowing the confines of current thought structure be your guidelines. Continue to ask questions. Continue to challenge in a polite and respectful way. Like some of you tonight don't like the things I'm saying or agree with it, and that's awesome. That's totally fine. And maybe you have great input, and I've tried to pop up the ones I can see, and I do apologize, because hosting, trying to read, and not leaving 30-second gaps of silence are tough. So it's tough for me to keep popping up and throwing your questions. But yeah, open your mind to these possibilities. And look, we discussed so many interesting what ifs tonight about the type of activity that's taking place. We may have uncovered something that will play out later. Maybe we've got to jump on the government, or maybe they will pick up on the information. Listen, from what I've been told from some of the people that have served our country, that sometimes these harebrained conspiracies are what get the government researching and investigating certain things and finding a way to protect us, so that when this does happen, if this does happen, they will be prepared for it. Something to consider, right? Sue Smith, I love this subject. Thanks, Dave. Thank you very much. We've got Crystal. You're doing a great job, Dave. We'd love to hear you talk. Well, thank you, Crystal. Some people call Bigfoot Sasquatch, Yeti don't mind. Very good, Misguided Angel. I'm all about the dad jokes. Perfectly played for this evening's conversations. Again, Craig Campabasso, our guest, was supposed to be with us, having connectivity issues. So I appreciate you hanging in with me and opening a dialogue and discussing this. And it doesn't have to stop here. You can email me, dave@paranormal60.com, dave@paranormal60.com. And if you have other theories and beliefs that you'd like to share, whether you want us to mention your name or not, you can send them to me and just tell me, yes, you can share this on a future episode. And maybe we will pick and prod at those. I also want to mention that on December 23rd, we're going to be joined by Sarah Lemos and Scotty Davis. It's another Ask Dave, Scotty, and Sarah night. So if you have questions regarding different elements of paranormal or your own experiences and would like some insights, email us, dave@paranormal60.com, and just in the subject line, put Dear Dave, and start your email off inside letting me know that you want to address that to that episode, and we will read those on the 23rd and have some cool dialogue and discussion. So I hope you'll tune in and check that out as well. It is a Friday night. Go have fun, cuddle with your loved ones, turn on a favorite show, maybe the Holzer Files on Max, or Discovery Plus. Maybe you want to revisit the episode of Paranormal State called First Contact, where a very young, nubile Dave Schrader appears with the Paranormal State kids to go in search of Bigfoot, actually Bat Squatch, and aliens over Trout Lake, Washington. Yeah, that actually happened. And you can find that episode. I believe it's on Discovery Plus and on Max. So you can check both of those and go look there. I'm also on a bunch of episodes of Ghost Adventures. So a lot of fun stuff you can do this weekend. We will be back Monday. We've got other great shows lined up, great conversations coming up. Craig, thank you for trying. We will get you back on in the future. I want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening, spending a little time with us here. And as I always like to say as we wrap up a program, may the darkness of this world be just a little more light with the information we share. And sometimes that information or those ideas may seem scary. And that's where we learn to grow. It's not just living in the comfort of our own headspace, but branching out beyond our comfort zones, talking about the things that are hard to talk about. Right? Kind of like Kennedy's old speech of, we do the hard things because they're hard, because that's where the learning begins. And sometimes we have to have scary conversations. Sometimes we have to have uncomfortable dialogues, but hopefully something bigger and better will grow from it. Have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time here with me. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll meet back here Monday night for more of the very best in paranormal programming. I'm Dave Schrader, and this is the Paranormal 60.